Alright, Shalom. I want to start by saying all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. I also want to say peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that scatter abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. That will be you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And last but not least, I want to give double honors to the head apostles at Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Alright? So, today I want to reveal to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and you Native American descendants, who you are according to the scriptures. Now, many so-called African Americans and natives don't know that they fit the curses that are described in Deuteronomy and throughout the whole Bible. The whole Bible is written about you, and you don't even know it. Some of you out there do know, but most of you don't know. So I'm going to reveal to you in the scripture today why you're being so oppressed and why, the white man, the so-called white man, hates you. Okay? So, without further ado, let's get into these scriptures. Alright, so this is the book of Deuteronomy. This is the 29th chapter, verse 1. And these are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he had made with them in Horeb. Alright? So this whole book of Deuteronomy was about the Israelites. Now, let me show you what the Most High thinks about the Israelites. This is Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Now, does that change? Let's go to Deuteronomy 10:15. Only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Alright, so it says as it is this day. The Most High doesn't change. Alright. So now that you know that the Israelites are above all people upon the face of the earth, now let me go through the curses to explain to you why you're going through what you're going through. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 28, first verse. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, and thou shalt hearken, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power. Alright? So it says that if you hearken unto his voice, then you will be set on high above all nations on the earth. Alright? Now these are the curses, the consequences for disobeying. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Okay? And it goes to a whole list. This whole list in Deuteronomy 28 goes through all the curses. Okay? First, let me start at 16 right here. It says, let me highlight it. Cursed shall that be in the city, and cursed shall that be in the field. Okay? So who's cursed in the city right now? Alright? No other than the so-called black man, the natives, and the Mexicans. Okay? And they were cursed in the field back in slavery. Okay, now there's many curses I'm going to get into. It's going to reveal to you who you are. And this is Deuteronomy 28:28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and with blindness, and astonishment of heart. Okay, so we're the only ones walking around blindness and madness, not knowing what the hell is going on and why we're being oppressed. It's all because we disobeyed the commandments. Okay? And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind grope in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Alright? Let me start at 30. I'm going to read this too. This happened in slavery. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lay with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. So the slaves, you so-called Negroes, you were slaves, and you were chosen to pick cotton. You had to pick cotton and the fruits of the field. You had to gather them in for the so-called white man. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. And 31 goes into so-called natives. Thine ox shall be slave. This happened. This 30 verse 30 also happened to the natives too. You know, all these curses happen to Negroes, natives, and Latinos. Okay. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Now the natives had ox, right? Okay. They shall be slain before thine eyes. The so-called white man slain the ox of the natives, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail, longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Okay, the fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. Who did that other than the so-called white man? Okay, if you from these descendants, and you can relate. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Okay. Let me go down to 36. The Lord shall bring thee and the king which thou shalt set over thee, which is the so-called white man Esau. He's the king that he set over us, unto a nation which thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Okay. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among the nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. All right. And this is mostly pertaining to you so-called Negroes. You know, you call and you Mexicans, and they also, you know, you call niggas coon spicks, wetbacks, you know, redskins and all that shit. You know, this is all proverbs and bywords that the nations have given unto you. You know, the so-called white man. Now let me go to 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Okay, so that's currently the white man is set up on high, and we're brought down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Okay. Further along, 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign, for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And here's this. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And that's where you get this pick right here from. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. Alright? Don't you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives want all things? You know, you're struggling to make $1. You wishing you were rich and all that shit. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Now, when it says destroyed, that means he's got your mind destroyed. So once your mind is destroyed, then the yokes came off. That's why you're worshiping so-called white man Jesus and all these other religions, and you don't even know your nationality, you know? So that's what it means by being destroyed. Read on in 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. Cold words. a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. This is talking about Christopher Columbus coming to the Americas and taking over the natives. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed. Which that happened, which also should not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth. This happened to you so-called Negroes, okay? The natives were already in America. You Negroes were so-called Negroes were over there in the east. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no rest, no ease. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And topping it off, 68, the finisher. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt. Now, Egypt in the scriptures means bondage. The Lord shall bring thee into bondage again with what? Ships. Slave ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. You won't see Israel, your homeland, again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Alright? So, I'm sure that relates to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives. You so-called Negroes are the only ones that really went into slavery on ships during the transatlantic slave trade. And when you got over to the Americas, you were sold unto the enemies. Okay, the natives, they were already conquered before that. All right. Now I'm gonna reveal to you natives, you Native Americans and Mexicans, who you are and what you were doing when you came to America. Let me play this video.
The Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box that was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the 10 Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismissed the findings. They found it in Israel and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio and did you know that? Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes, and that's what we focus on in America, is we were bad to the American. Forget about it, it's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Peter Lilback, who is, I've told you before, is one of my favorite authors. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the founders here. And I'm also going to show you some documents that show how that history has been erased.
The fun thing with the serpent is, how does a serpent...
So that guy right there, he got fired for revealing that information. You know, because they don't want you to know this. Now, how you got over here is recorded in the scriptures, you so-called natives. And that is written in the book of 2nd Esdras, 13th chapter. In the 40th verse, okay? As you saw in the video, they found a tablet over in the Americas with the 10 Commandments, okay? Now, this is how the so-called natives came over here, okay? And as it reads, these are the 10 tribes which were led away out of their own land in the time of Osea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of the Assyrians, led away captive. And he carried them beyond the river, and they were carried into another land. Now, this is not talking about America yet, but this is talking about a heathen land, okay? But they took the counsel, the so-called natives and the other tribes, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, the other nations, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes which they had not kept in their own land. And they entered by narrow passages of the river Euphrates. And that's over there in the Middle East. For the Most High then wrought signs for them and stayed the springs. I mean, he calmed the oceans of the river till they were passed over. But through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Azareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. And now, when they begin to come again. Okay, so the natives came over here before the so-called Negroes because they wanted to get away from the heathens so they can keep their statutes which the Most High gave to them. That's why that man showed tablets with the 10 Commandments in them. Okay? But they started going off when they got over here too, and they started worshiping other guys. And that's why the Most High sent Christopher Columbus over here to terrorize them. All right? Now, let me see. Let's go to Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah 17:4. This is the Most High. It says, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger which shall burn forever." Okay, so yeah, the reason why we up here serving you, we in America serving the so-called white man Esau, is because we disobey the commandments in the scriptures. All right, it's as simple as that. People looking for answers as to why they being oppressed. Well, the Most High said you're not gonna be saved in this land until the Messiah comes back. He's the only one that's gonna be able to save us from this hell. All right, so let me go to another chapter. This is let me go back to Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter, verse 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among the nations whither the Lord thy power hath driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord hath scattered thee. Okay, verse 4. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, outmost parts of the earth, heaven just means kingdoms. Okay, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, in the land of Israel, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee. Okay, the so-called white man hates you. That's why you catch so much hell from him. And on all them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. And the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers. Okay, so right now we don't know who we are. Like, that's why you're getting so much hell. It's because you're not obeying the commandments. You don't know the statutes and judgments of the Most High. But the Most High is calling his people back. And that's why you have such a huge awakening of the Israelites. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and natives are the Israelites of the Bible. And he's calling you to come back and to keep his commandments. All right. Now, you don't have to keep them all, just the ones best of your ability. You have to observe his statutes and what he likes and doesn't like. Like, he doesn't like pork. You're not supposed to eat pork. That's against his law. Shrimp, lobster, seafood, any kind of fish without scales, you're not supposed to eat. You're not supposed to be celebrating these holidays, these so-called holidays that the white man celebrates. You know, that has to do with Christmas and all that. Even Christmas is recorded in the scriptures. All right, so let me get that real quick. This is Jeremiah 10, verse 1. Hear the word of the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. Now, the signs in heaven that's talking about the so-called UFOs that the Air Force have just confirmed. You know, they don't know what the hell it is, but it's actually the angels of the Most High, and they're about to get ready to return. And when they do, they're going to gather the chosen ones up, and they're going to burn the earth, and they're going to destroy. Okay, so this is what the heathen are dismayed at, the signs in the heaven. Continuing on, and be not. Oh, yeah, let me stop. Let me see something. Oh yeah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen. With the axe they deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. What does it sound like? It sound like a Christmas tree, right? Yeah, it's talking about Christmas. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. Okay, but that's basically going into the holiday, a major holiday of the heathen, which is a Babylonian custom that they did back in Babylon. Okay, and America has picked up the same tradition. They practice the same ancient traditions that so-called enemies of the Most High did. That's why the Most High hates the so-called white man. And I can reveal that to you in another lesson. But to get back on topic, let me go to Baruch to continue to reveal to you who you are according to the scriptures. This is Baruch 3 and 5. This is us today. Alright, it says, remember not the iniquities of our forefathers, but think upon thy power and thy name now at this time. Alright, the name of the Father is Yahweh, and the name of the Son is Yahushua. Okay, for thou art the Lord our God, and thee, O Lord, we will praise. And for this cause that thou hast put thy fear in our hearts, to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquity of our forefathers that sinned before thee. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our forefathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Verse 9, hear, Israel, the commandments of life, give ear to understand wisdom. How happeneth, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, thou art waxen old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead, that thou art counted with them that go down into the grave, which is the so-called white man in these other nations. Because America will be destroyed, and everyone here will be burnt up by thermonuclear fire, because Russia, China, Iran, all these countries are going to nuke the United States. Okay, and there's only going to be a few that's going to be saved out of here. Okay, thou hast forsaken the fountain of wisdom, which is this knowledge of the scriptures. Okay, for if thou hadst walked in the way of the Most High, thou shouldst have dwelled in peace forever. Okay, let me just read the rest of this. Learn where is wisdom, where is strength, where is understanding, that thou mayest know also where is the length of days and life, where is the light of the eyes and peace. Who have found out her place? It's talking about wisdom. Or who have come into her treasure. Yeah, so once you come into this knowledge, it's like finding a unsearchable treasure. It's like coming up on a gold mine, because the wisdom of the scriptures bringeth to a kingdom, as it tells you. To find wisdom is to find life, eternal life. Okay, and that eternal life comes from knowing the Most High statutes, judgments, and commandments, and keeping the commandments to the best of your abilities, and believing on the true names of the Father and of the Son, Yahweh and Yahushua. Alright, let me get a few more precepts. This is I got cat mouth. I need a cup of water. Anyway, continue on. This is Ezekiel 39, 21st chapter. This is a future prophecy. And I will set my glory among the heathen, the other nations, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God from that day and forward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them. I gave them into the hand of their enemies, so fell they all by the swords. According to their uncleanness, and according to their transgressions, have I done unto them, and hid my face from them. Therefore said the Lord God, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have Jacob is Israel. Jacob is the forefather of the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, his name was changed to Israel. Okay, just to get that clear. Now will I bring again the captivity of Israel, and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. Okay. After that, they have borne their shame and all their trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. When I have brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and have sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, they shall know that I am the Lord their God, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their own land in Israel, and have left none of them there, and have left none of them any more there. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured. For I had hang up on my wife. Well, she gonna continuing on. For I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith the Lord of power. Alright, so this is a future prophecy. Okay. We're gonna be gathered back into our homelands, and all these nations are gonna be put into subjection. Alright, so let me get one more scripture, and I'm gonna close it out. This is Revelation 13:10. And it reads, If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Now the saints are the people that made a covenant with the Most High, the Israelites. Okay, so what this is saying is that we're going to get revenge on the so-called white man and these other nations that also had us in captivity in the past. Okay, so they have to go into captivity. In our kingdom, they're going to have to go into captivity to repay everything that they did to us. So that's what that's going into. So yeah, let me close this video out. Hopefully that was edifying. Until next time, I say shalom.